All right. Thank you, everybody who is joining live. Thank you to everybody who's going to be watching later on. I am live with Jacob from the Uncontested Podcast and Oklahoma City Thunder podcast on the Blue Wire Podcast Network. We had been kind of DMing back and forth a little bit, trying to schedule things. Obviously, things got busy with the trade deadline, the Super Bowl, All-Star weekend. We finally had some time today. And again, if you guys are watching live later on, do me a huge favor. Make sure to Hulk smash that like button. All the links are going to be down below in the description, but I want to introduce my guest here, Jacob. How you doing, man? Thank you for joining me. Do you want to tell people what you guys do over there? How long you've been a Thunder fan? Go ahead and plug yourself, man.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah. So over at the Uncontested, we're on all the major podcast platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere, right? We're an NBA podcast, Thunder centric. So we podcast after every Thunder game. And then we do Sunday live shows on YouTube that are more league based. We spend a lot of time on the Thunder as well, but we touch on more league based stuff once a week. We've been doing the podcast. So I'm horrible with years, which is funny because I'm a history teacher. I'm horrible with years, but we started the podcast this season in Oklahoma City with Russ, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony, which feels like a freaking decade ago.
Right?
It feels so long ago.
I can't even process that right now.
There are no players from any of those teams still on the OKC Thunder roster. So a lot of turnover. But been following the Thunder ever since relocation. Obviously, a lot of people around here really got into the Thunder as that upward trajectory that was almost exponential with Russ, Harden, KD, who we'll conveniently talk a little bit about today. Really took off, and always really enjoyed listening to podcasts, reading articles, and we decided, why not try our hand at it? And it's been a blast. We've never looked back, and it's grown into something we would have never imagined. But to have the opportunity to get on here and talk basketball, nothing better, man. Absolutely nothing better.
Well done, man. Well done. Well, once again, you guys, everything will be in the description. Go give them a follow. Follow Jacob on Twitter. All the stuff is down below. Go check them out. And again, if you guys are watching later, make sure to Hulk smash that like button. Please subscribe. We're going to probably be live for about 30 minutes or so. Just talking all things Phoenix Suns, OKC Thunder basketball. But we will get started just for a few minutes. Really just talking All-Star weekend, man, what your grades were for the weekend overall. Did you even watch most of it? Because I know that All-Star weekend it definitely has its flaws, especially with the way players get voted in nowadays and all that. So did you watch much of All-Star weekend? If you did, what was your favorite event? Do you have any grades for it? What are you thinking, man?
So the game, like Sunday night, was kind of boring. Like, wasn't much fun at all. I thought the draft actually was more enjoyable than the game. Seeing the draft and back and forth.
That's so bad.
I know. Giannis trying to take Ja when Ja wasn't even available. Nikola Jokic refusing to be last pick and getting up and just walking off the stage. Some of that stuff was really enjoyable. I think, obviously everyone is talking about Mac McClung, the two-way guy coming in and winning the dunk contest, which if you've ever watched Mac McClung highlights, that dude has just insane bounce. I think for me, my favorite part of the weekend, though, was the Rising Stars Challenge. Part of that is because there were 2 Thunder players involved in the Rising Stars Challenge. Sir. But those games felt like, out of everything over the weekend, the most competitive. Guys actually going for it, some defense being played. A fun showcase of just how much young talent is in this league. And then you consider that some guys weren't even able to make it because of injury. No, we didn't have a Jalen Green playing. We didn't have Chet Holmgren playing.
Yeah.
And then you think about what it will look like next year with this 2023 draft class coming in. I personally wish they would change All-Star Sunday night to mimic that Rising Stars Challenge. 4 teams, a little mini tournament. I think you get a lot more fun out of the draft in that process because there's 4 teams now. The games could be much more competitive. I doubt they'll ever change it like that. I do like that they do the Elam ending in the All-Star game, but Overall, like it's always a fun weekend, just as long as you don't take it seriously. But I think Friday night was definitely my favorite night of the weekend.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I grew up obviously watching NBA All-Star Weekend. I'm sure you did too. I take it a little more seriously than others do, but I will admit, and I admitted this on some recent live shows, it's sort of lost its magic. Maybe that's because I'm getting older and they've changed things and all that stuff. But that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you about All-Star Weekend and just get your perspective on it. And I thought you did a great job breaking that all down. And I do agree. I think that the Rising Stars Challenge, or as I like to call it, the rookie versus sophomore game,
Yep.
was definitely entertaining. And you know what? I'm not going to lie, man. The dunk contest surprised me. I know that everybody's raving about Mac McClung and everything, but I thought it was overall pretty good for the most part. I mean, Jericho Sims kind of blew it, although I thought his first dunk was really good. Kenyon Martin Jr. was really good as well. And then, Trey Murphy was right there with Mac McClung, but he stole the show, obviously. And, I would say overall, it was pretty boring in terms of a weekend. Presentation wise, they always do a great job. I'm sure they made tons of money and all that. But it's sort of, especially when LeBron went out and then Giannis only played the minute or whatever due to the hand injury. Seems like the gravity was sort of sucked out, when they were both out, you know what I mean? But I will say, if you look at everybody that was on the court pretty much during the All-Star game, sort of like the next generation of players, kind of like how you referenced, you know what I mean, with the Rising Stars game. So I thought that was pretty cool. I guess I would give an overall rating a B-. I don't know. Just, it's All-Star Weekend, man. It's entertainment. It's for the fans. It's a celebration of the league. I like All-Star Weekend more than others, as you can tell by my hat and my shirt that I'm wearing. But I don't know. Do you have any grades, any final thoughts before we move on here and get to the real stuff we're going to dive into here?
I think B- is probably fair.
Yeah.
A little underwhelming. Not the greatest thing
Underwhelming.
in the world, but wasn't a complete flop either. Just kind of,
Exactly. No, I totally agree with you, man. So we're going to move on here to what I'm sure a lot of Suns fans really want to hear us talk about. And we have, some better perspective on it. What can we expect from newcomer Darius Bazley? And then, like I said, later on, I'm going to give you my thoughts on Dario Saric. And really just your thoughts on the trade in general. So what can we expect from Darius Bazley? Any thoughts, insight? What do you got for us, man?
definitely. So Baisley is in his fourth year in the league. This past summer, whenever the extension deadline had passed and Darius Baisley did not get an extension with the Oklahoma City Thunder on his rookie scale deal, I started saying at that point, the writing is on the wall. If you follow the Thunder at all, you know that general manager Sam Presti never lets an asset go to waste. And if he doesn't extend somebody, he is not going to let them walk in free agency. He is going to make a trade. He is going to extend the life of the asset for as long as possible. So as soon as Darius Bazley didn't pick up an extension from the Thunder, for me, it was a no-brainer. He's getting traded by the deadline. It also kind of doubled down because the Thunder have a full roster right now, and they have just one first-round pick in 2023, but they have 4 seconds. And then in 2024, they have 4 first-rounders. So at some point, they're going to have to start clearing some way for some younger guys, which they have been doing. But Bazley just seemed like the prime candidate for that. He has started. So his rookie year, he didn't start very much. His rookie year was the bubble year.
Yep.
He played pretty significantly on that team, but that was the team with Chris Paul.
Yep.
So didn't start a whole lot. His second and third seasons in the league, he was basically just penciled in as the Thunder starter at power forward perpetually. It just kind of by default, that's who he was. And then this season, that changed. He did not start very many games. I don't think he started a single game this season for the Thunder, actually. Found himself playing off the bench, and then as the season progressed, started to rack up a lot of DMP CDs, just not really getting minutes, but then would randomly play 15 or 20 minutes one night. And so with Darius Bazley, you are getting a guy who is not super offensively gifted, right? He's got the measurements and the athleticism that you love for an NBA wing. He's 6'9", 6'10". He is a really good athlete. He is very lean. He can get up and down the court. He's got the wingspan. Like everything kind of jumps off the page for you from a physicality standpoint. But offensively, he's just never been able to put it together, specifically in the sense that the Thunder want, where the Thunder are building a team that is a lot of guys with length who can pass, dribble, and shoot, and who can make a quick decision with the ball. And Darius Baisley just wasn't able to do that. There's a lot of times we'd call it Baisley time. Baisley would get the ball and, hey, it's Baisley time. He's going head down, driving to the rim, kind of out of control. Wasn't a huge, like, he didn't have a whole lot of fans in Oklahoma City because of the style of offense that he played. Other side of the court, though, defensively, this guy is a menace.
Yeah.
The wingspan, the size, the Thunder would actually deploy him a lot as their backup center and let him play backup 5. An incredibly underrated rim protector. Last season, he had more blocks than fouls, which is kind of absurd. I did not know that. Yeah, kind of absurd. He's great at protecting the rim. He does a really good job of blocking jump shots. I mean, I've watched this man multiple times in a game, like block a DeMar DeRozan mid-range pull-up. Like, wow. It's the shot blocking instincts are very impressive. He loves to switch out. He can switch 1 through 5. He can get down in a stance and guard point guards and slide his feet well, wall up. Defensively, he does some good stuff. It's on that offensive end where there is a lot of struggles. With that being said, though, going to the Phoenix Suns, he has history playing with Chris Paul.
Yep.
He played on that single season that Chris was with the Oklahoma City Thunder, where they pushed the Houston Rockets to 7 in the first round of the bubble series. With a Phoenix team who has an established hierarchy, right? KD, Book, CP3, where he can just be a role player. My assumption would be that Monty Williams is going to tell Darius, hey, your jobs are defend like crazy, run in transition, shoot corner threes, and that's it. Don't try to create offense. Don't hunt for your own shot. That is your role. Where in Oklahoma City, with the rebuild, he was granted so much freedom to really explore his game. I think he will be more efficient in a more clearly defined role. And I mean, is he going to rack up like minutes in the playoffs for the Suns? Like, I would doubt it. He's probably like your 9th or 10th or 11th guy. And that's fine. And I'll be interested to see if Phoenix brings him back next season. But I think more from both the Thunder and the Phoenix perspective on this trade. I don't know the extent of the Phoenix cap sheet. Maybe you do, but I know Phoenix saved a lot of money on this trade. The Thunder pick up a future asset and a 2nd round pick, which, correct me if I'm wrong, a 2029 2nd rounder.
Oh, that's a great question, because I know that we gave up technically 5 picks for KD, which we're going to talk about all that later. So yeah, you might be accurate on that. I know it was deep because I think you can only trade 7 years in advance. So you're probably accurate on that.
I want to say it's a 2029, and the Thunder want to kick their picks down the road as far as possible. So I think this was a financially motivated trade for both sides. Was a pick incentive trade for the Thunder, and but you know, I think in spot minutes, Darius Baisley can do some nice things in a limited offensive role.
Well done, Jacob. That's exactly what we wanted to hear, man. I didn't really do as much homework on Darius Baisley as I probably should have been, because it's all been Kevin Durant focused. I'm sure you can understand that. But the few notes that I did take, and you kind of referenced it earlier, I mean, he had some really good games, you know, in the bubble year and that year with Chris Paul. I think he had like multiple 20-point games. I think he shot like 47%. But here's what General Manager James Jones had to say about him. Just a quick quote. And you kind of referenced some of this earlier. He said, and I quote, "He has a chance here with us. Athletic, great defender, can play above the rim, can play and pick up full court." He talked about we need guys that can bring things defensively, especially, after losing Mikal Bridges and all that. You already talked about his body type. I mean, 6'9", 216, 7-foot wingspan. And we're just going to have to see. It's already been 2 games and he hasn't played yet, which some Suns fans were a little upset about. But Monty Williams, I don't know how your guys' head coach goes about it, but Monty Williams likes to play guys based off matchups. Maybe he's still working his way in, and learning the playbook and all that, but we didn't see him, which is strange. TJ Warren got limited minutes as well. Again, it's that was pre-All-Star break leading into the break. So maybe Monty Williams is waiting. I'm sure, depending on what happens with KD in that first game, which we're going to talk about that in a little bit, maybe he gets some minutes. I don't know. But I think it was a win-win trade for both teams. And I think you did an excellent job breaking that down me financially. I think Dario Saric and him were both on one. Well, I mean, Dario was on his last year of a deal. And we're going to talk about Dario here in a minute. I think it was a win-win, man. And as James Jones said, he has a chance here. We'll see what his role is. And again, the way Monty Williams does things, it could be a game-to-game, decision, role. And I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But I like your perspective on it and your sort of analysis and all that. I just wanted to give you my thoughts real quick on Dario Saric, man. And again, I'm just a fan here. This is what we do on this channel. I call it how I see it. But let me tell you, man, Dario Saric was pretty much loved here for the most part. And you know what? I guess the best way, coming from a Suns fan perspective that saw him play a whole bunch of games, prior to his injury, which kept him out all year. He had that injury in the finals and everything. You're going to get a very hard worker. I will say that immediately. He is such a hard worker, and Chris Paul has said incredible things about him. Devin Booker, even when he was injured, and he would do the occasional media, whatever, checkup and all that, and the media got to talk to him. The dude just works hard. Great chemistry guy, great locker room guy. Monty Williams always called him a connector. And even if Dario just spends 20-something games with you guys, because I think he's an unrestricted free agent, I want to say, after the season, I think OKC fans are going to love him. He works super hard. He always has these strange games where he may not stand out on the box score, but is still yet productive. I remember, obviously, before the trade deadline, he had back-to-back games where he had 14 rebounds, 13 rebounds, but those rebounds were huge for us. He can score occasionally. I saw, I think it was his first game with you guys, he had 12 points, 5 rebounds on 66% shooting. He just has those random games, but the dude works hard. And I don't know if you caught any of the Eurobasket tournament over the summer. That was sort of an eye-opener. We were like, holy crap, Dario Saric is back, man. He played really good during the Eurobasket tournament. And again, man, I cannot stress you enough. You're going to get a very hard worker, especially when he was dealing with that injury. He worked his tail off. And I think OKC Thunder fans will appreciate that. And obviously, you were talking about the young roster with this OKC team. I would like to say he's probably the oldest player on the OKC roster. Is that correct?
He is now the oldest player after they traded Mike Muscala. So the Thunder's oldest player is a 28-year-old, which is kind of absurd.
Exactly. So even though 28 is still pretty young in NBA years, you're going to get that experience. I mean, Dario Saric has been to the finals technically, before the injury and all that. So he knows what it takes to win. He's going to bring that to the locker room. Again, even if he's just there for 20 games. I've been a big Dario Saric fan. People forget too, even though the 2016 draft class was pretty bad for the most part, he almost won Rookie of the Year, which would have been hilarious. So I think you guys are getting a great player in Dario Saric. We're going to have to see what happens. Who knows if he's even there next year, but I'm sure the 20-something games that he will be there, I'm sure OKC fans will love him. What did you guys think of Dario Saric? Because I did watch your guys' trade deadline show, and I heard you guys talking about it. What are OKC fans thinking? What are you guys thinking about Dario Saric? What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, so I think he kind of fits in this mold of the type of offensive player the Thunder are looking for, especially in bigs, guys that can space the floor, provide driving lanes, and driving kick opportunities for guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, J-Dub, the guard of the two, although they play him at the 4. It's really weird. So I think offensively he kind of fits what they're looking for. Provides, like you mentioned, experience and just kind of this veteran leadership that
even
the
though
Thunder have.
The
Thunder have a great culture that they've built. Guys like Kenrich Williams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort. Even though Shai and Lou are so young, they kind of embody what this team is about. And I think they've built a really good core in Oklahoma City on how they approach what they do and how they approach their business. I think Dario will fit in well there. like you said, maybe he stays around, maybe he doesn't. It's going to be really interesting. Like I mentioned, the Thunder have their own first and then multiple seconds in this upcoming draft. They're slated to have like 30 million in cap space. The biggest free agent signing the Thunder have ever signed in the history of the franchise. Either Isaiah Joe this past offseason off of waivers.
Yep.
Or Patrick Patterson from the Toronto Raptors on the MLE.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Or you could also maybe argue whenever they got Nerlens Noel on the minimum.
Yeah.
I mean, this team does not sign free agents. It's not an avenue for roster construction in Oklahoma City. They've accepted that. So maybe they don't spend that 30 million and they decide to bring Dario back. I think that's definitely a possibility, depending on how these next 25 games go. Maybe more if the Thunder make the play-in or the playoffs. But
Which we are
think
going to talk about in a little bit.
Oh yeah, I think he will be a good fit. It's going to be interesting as well, though. The Thunder have had most of their bigs injured for quite some time. Yeah. I say bigs, right? Jeremiah Robinson Earl, the second round pick. He's 6'9", played a lot of time at center for them last year. Jay Will, the other Jalen Williams, this one from Arkansas, has been playing since all the injuries have happened. He's been really well. We're expecting Alexei Pokusevski to be back, hopefully before March. That is the hope. He was having really his breakout season this year after two really underwhelming years to start. He just turned 21, by the way. He's been 21 for less than 2 months and already has 2+ years of NBA experience. So his runway still goes on for forever. Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting to see how Dario fits into this big man rotation. The Thunder have played 6'7" Kenrich Williams at center for extended periods this season, and they still have the 11th overall defensive rating in the league, right? Even without playing with bigs. So it's going to be interesting to see how Dario fits in if he gets regular rotation minutes, but I think he's going to be a good fit just based off his style of play.
Absolutely, man. Well done. We're going to have to see, man. It's going to be interesting, and we're about to dive into it here in a little bit. We're going to be talking about, later on, we're going to be talking about OKC Thunder's future and what we can expect, because we actually play you guys this Friday. Mm-hmm. But first, before we dive into that, and we don't have to spend too much time on this because we've actually gone a little bit long. Well, the run time, I thought 30 minutes. We're probably going to go over 30 minutes. So we'll just spend a few minutes on this. Where were you when Kevin Durant got traded? What was your reaction? Did you freak out like me? I mean, I was literally shaking.
Oh, I imagine.
And I had to quickly make a terrible thumbnail and go live. Thank God I had one of my friends with me because I was just processing everything. And I do apologize. My dogs are freaking out right now. I don't know if you can hear them in the background, but it was crazy, man. And I remember I went live for hours that night. It was an insane night. And for me, it was midnight. So where were you when Kevin Durant got traded? What were your thoughts?
So it was midnight for me as well. Like any responsible adult, I took the trade deadline off from work because there's absolutely zero productivity going on trade deadline day.
Yep.
I kind of had a feeling that eventually Kevin would end up in Phoenix. You've probably dive deep into this, but in the week lead up to the deadline, lots of interesting Woj tweets about Phoenix is still interested in Kevin Durant. If he became available, they're a team that's going to make a run, yada, yada. And I was just like, why is Woj tweeting this?
Yeah, right.
And my assumption was Kevin's going to ride out the year with Brooklyn. They're going to get to the summer and they're going to revisit Kevin Durant trades and something is going to go through. So I was actually, since I had taken the day off, I was playing the new Hogwarts game. My first night of playing it, my wife was hanging out in the living room with me, watching me play. And my phone buzzes, and we're 12 hours from the deadline. So, of course, you got to check every single ding. And I see the Phoenix Suns are closing in on a deal to acquire Brooklyn's Kevin Durant. And I was like, well, video games are done for the night. No more playing games. This has my full attention. I kind of had a feeling eventually KD would end up there. I did not think it would happen at the deadline.
Same here.
shout out to the Suns' new owner for being willing just to hit the ground running and take a swing for the fences.
Yep.
You would know this better than me, but I think he had a quote in that Ramona Shelburne story where he said, I could be owner for the next 40 years and never have a chance to trade for somebody like this ever again. You've got to take the swing whenever the pitch is thrown, right?
Yep.
And so incredible. It's kind of funny. Kevin Durant played in Oklahoma City. Chris Paul played in Oklahoma City. If Thunder fans had their way, one pick earlier, Devin Booker would have played for Oklahoma City. So a lot of ties there. Now Darius Bazley is there. So a lot of Oklahoma City ties. Monty Williams, Monty coached in Oklahoma City.
Campaign,
right? Man, there was not a bigger campaign fan than this guy right here. And I'm so glad that he got his career back on track and was able to carve out a role in the league.
Yeah.
But so a lot of tie-ins with these two franchises. But I mean, yeah, just incredible. It immediately propels Phoenix to, I think, the top of the Western Conference. Denver's incredible. But I think if everything clicks, and that's a big if, right? Because you have a very short runway for those things to click. But if everything clicks, which I think it can, I mean, Phoenix has to be right at the top of odds to win the NBA title. I think they're second to Boston, but when you add Kevin Durant, for someone who watched Kevin Durant for 10 years, when you add Kevin Durant, that immediately raises your ceiling to like unfathomable heights.
Yep. Absolutely, man. I really do believe we got to stay at least 90% healthy. You can't control injuries, as you already know, and got to pray, fingers crossed, for great health. And it's going to be exciting, man. And we are going to dive into this probably right now. We're going to kind of combine these segments into one. We're going to talk about what you think, whether KD plays or not, which I give it a 98% chance he plays on Friday. We play you guys 4 times for the rest of the season. It's crazy. You thought we probably would have already played you guys by now, but we haven't yet. So we're going to kind of combine these segments into one. So I guess what can Suns fans expect from this Oklahoma City Thunder team, which, by the way, you guys have won 28 games this year, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, I remember when the Suns were winning, under 28 games and all that. And I really think that the Thunder have done a great job of pushing past the narratives, proving that they can play in this league, proving that they have a bright future. I mean, SGA, Josh Giddey, the J-Dubs, the Pokus, and you guys got Chet Holmgren just waiting in the wings. And then who knows what you guys are going to do this offseason. You guys got tons of assets. Not sure what your salary cap looks like, but I'm sure Sam Presti's got that all figured out. You guys have a bright future. So I guess my first question is, real quick, well, let's talk about the Suns. What can we expect from that game on Friday? And then we'll talk. I got some other questions for you that we're all kind of getting into this one huge segment. So what can Suns fans expect from the Thunder on Friday?
For sure. So first we'll have to see who's healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I
wish we had that's like in hindsight, but
yes.
Yeah.
The Thunder have like 4 entrenched starters. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, J-Dub. And then that 5th starter rotates. Friday.
Like that's how the Suns do it.
Friday, I would be shocked if it's somebody that's not Jalen Williams, J-Will, or JRE, because the Thunder just need size against DeAndre Ayton.
Yep.
But this is a team that plays really, really hard. Yep. They scramble defensively. They have great length defensively. Like I mentioned earlier, they're at 11th in defensive rating in the league.
Yep.
Really impressive for the youngest team in NBA history. They're 11th in defensive rating. And the offense has really started to come alive. Obviously, Suns fans probably haven't watched Oklahoma City because this will be the Thunder's 3rd nationally televised game. At the beginning of the season, they had 0.
You guys deserve more.
They got flexed in for a Miami Heat game where Jimmy Butler shot like a billion free throws and it was miserable. They got flexed in for LeBron breaking the record, which I was fine with. Like, we can take this timeout for LeBron to break the record. The Thunder won.
Yeah,
and
people forget that.
J-Dub and Shai put on a show and got put on the map. And then now this game.
Yeah.
So Suns fans probably haven't got a chance to watch Oklahoma City much at all. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is an absolute freaking stud.
Yeah.
This guy is going to play probably about 37, 38 minutes on Friday night. And if he shoots more than 2 3-pointers, I'll be shocked.
Right.
He just doesn't shoot threes. His game is so smooth yet herky-jerky. He plays at his own pace.
Yep.
He's got like these off-step moves. He just throws defenders off. He's incredibly physical, 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan. He will rise up in the paint and shoot mid-range J after mid-range J and small paper cuts until you're dead. He gets to the line at like 11 times per game. He lives at the rim. He's worked on his athleticism. He plays above the rim a little bit more. He's blossomed into something I never thought. Like, if you would have told me very best peak 29-year-old Shai was doing this, I would have struggled to believe that. He's doing this at 24.
Yeah.
Like
it's insane, man.
Yeah.
Like, I knew he was super talented and everything because I remember when he was with the Clippers for the 1 year, but his growth over the past few years, you could argue he should have been an all-star last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's absolutely incredible. He's averaging like 30 points per game or something this year.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong on that. He's incredible, man. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. He's on pace to be in a category solely with LeBron and MJ as far as like 30 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and a block and a steal a game. Defensively, he's really dialed in. So you're going to get a show with Shai.
Yep.
J-Dub is a guy that has really come on the map. I mean, early season, my comp for him was Mikal Bridges. I've started to lean a little bit closer to like a Jaylen Brown style comp. And I know these are like crazy high comps, but this kid is freakishly good. The offensive polish. He's a 6'7". He played point guard in college. He's got a 7'2" wingspan. And you can just see the pieces are starting to fit together for him. The game is slowing down. So you're going to get a really nice show from him. And then Josh Giddey, just a guy that will make literally every single pass on the court.
Yep.
Insanely talented, 6'8". This guy is the limit for this kid. And then all the role players. The Thunder just have a ton of role players who constantly make stuff happen. Kenrich Williams.
Yep.
Kenrich Williams would have been out of the league, but he got signed so he could be thrown into the Steven Adams trade whenever Steven Adams went to New Orleans. So they can make salary match.
Yeah.
He has said he wants to end his career in Oklahoma City. He is an integral part. Every player on this team would tell you that he is like the leader of that locker room.
Wow.
If KD plays, Kenrich will guard him for majority of the game. He's a dog. He does all the little stuff.
That's what I was going to say. Like, he can kind of do it all, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that he's sort of he's been in the past a trade target to some Phoenix Suns fans. I mean, I haven't watched enough of him, but what I have seen is he is a guy that can do it all. But the way that you were talking about him with his locker room presence, that's huge. And you've referenced this a couple times already, how young your OKC Thunder team really is, and some of the maturity with some of these guys like an SGA, Kendrick Williams and all that, and maybe even a Josh Giddey. He seems like he's very mature for his age as well. That is huge. And that's something that the Phoenix Suns have had to learn to do because they have a pretty young roster in a way too. Is like Devin Booker had to take on a leadership role early on. Even a DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges when he was here. Heck, even a Dario Saric, you know what I mean? So you're talking about culture and leadership in the locker room, maturity. That's huge. And I feel like the OKC Thunder have done a great job of that. And, as I referenced too, I feel like they push past that narrative of, oh, we're not going to be a lottery team this year. Yeah, Chet Holmgren got injured, whatever. We're still going to play hard. So I guess really my next question for you is, do you think the OKC Thunder should push towards the play-in, keep winning as many games as possible? You know what I mean? Like, obviously everybody's tanking for Wemby and all that, but do you think that the Thunder should go for it? Because the way that I look at it, we already talked about the maturity of the roster. You guys are winning games. You guys can play hard. I think you guys are third right now in scoring, like points per game, which is awesome. Do you guys think that you should make a playoff push? Do OKC Thunder fans want that to happen?
Yes. The 1B train is gone.
Done. Yeah.
I mean, you're not catching Houston.
Exactly.
Houston's going to catch strays right here. Like, what a god awful organization.
Bad
Zero
over there, man.
direction, zero leadership. Like, you're not catching that. And hey, the Thunder still own 2 future Rockets picks from the
Yep.
Chris Paul Russell Westbrook swap. So go ahead and keep being trash,
Yep.
Houston. That just means better picks in Oklahoma City. But yeah, the players of this team are focused on making the postseason. The coaching is focused on making the postseason. However, they also have the long view in play as well. So you might see some Ousmane Dieng, the number 11
I'm
overall
a fan
pick.
of him, and yeah, I like him a lot.
Yeah, you might see some of him Friday night.
He seems like a project player, but dude, I think he could have a bright future in this league if he can stay healthy.
Athletically and like just size, like his
Yeah.
length is insane.
Yeah.
So they are going to still play young guys for development, but they are still working towards making the postseason this season. There will be no. Last year, the Thunder tanked the last month of the season. Like, no ifs, ands, ors, or buts about it. They pulled the plug. They were even sitting their two-way guys to only play G League dudes.
Yep. Wasn't SGA out or something like that too?
Yeah, SGA had like a really bad ankle turn, I think, and was out for quite a while.
Yeah.
There are no more tanking levers to pull, right? That's out the window. Even if they decided they were going to sit Shea and Josh and J-Dub and whoever else, I mean, you would be starting number 17 overall pick Trey Mann, and you would be starting number 11 overall pick. Like, there would still be talent on the court. And I mean, Shea legitimately has a shot at all NBA this year, and there are contract incentives tied to that. They're not sitting Shea. So this team is going to push for the playoffs this year. My assumption is they're going to be in a play-in game, which will be incredible. And at that point, it's gravy. If you win and you make it into the playoffs, awesome. That's great experience. If you lose, you still get a lottery pick, and I'm okay with that as well.
Yep.
Wemby is off the table. Scoot is off the table. The Thunder do have enough future assets that they can trade up in this draft to get really anyone like outside the top 2 or 3.
That's what I was thinking too.
And
you guys are loaded with assets.
I would not be surprised if you see that on draft night or leading into draft night, the Thunder move from 13th to 6th.
Yep.
Wouldn't shock me in the slightest.
Yep. And again, man, I think that OKC Thunder fans should be excited. I mean, obviously, maybe my thoughts would be different if I was an OKC Thunder fan, but just the way that you've been talking about them, and just think about it. Look at it for my Phoenix Suns. I know the bubble year was crazy with the pandemic and everything, but like the Suns made it to what was considered the playoffs, if you will. Oh, I mean, they made it almost to the playoffs. It felt like a playoffs. Let's be real. 8-0 in the bubble. I mean, there's only 7 games in a playoff series anyways. And then that kind of changed everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We were sort of put on the map. We got Chris Paul right after that, and just everything. The rest is history, if you will. And even before that, man, I mean, we were pretty bad before the bubble, but we were winning games. We had a culture building. Kelly Oubre was a big part of our culture building. And we were playing hard, even though we were losing games. We had like Ricky Rubio and all that. Remember that team? And so I'm really excited for you guys. I think you guys should try to make the play-in, maybe the playoffs. Anything could happen, man. And I think that OKC Thunder fans should be very excited. Any final thoughts on OKC Thunder's future? Our next segment before we get out of here will just be if you have any questions for me or anything else you want to talk about. So any final thoughts on OKC Thunder's future?
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned it a few times here, but and the listeners of my podcast always joke, I have to get the obligatory Chet Holmgren hasn't played yet.
Yep.
Right
in the wings. Yep.
The one thing that this Thunder team needs is interior defense, rebounding, and shooting. Well, Chet Holmgren, check.
Yep.
Right. And we'll never know until he takes an NBA court, but he killed it at Summer League. You listen to any interviews of any guys around the league, including Kevin Durant, and they say during the summer, all the pickup runs, Chet was cooking people.
Absolutely.
right? He's blocking Embiid 4 times in a pickup run. I think KD said he was out there like one of the guys. He belongs.
Right.
When you add that to this Thunder team, and then you still take into consideration that they have something like 13 first-round picks over the next 7 years. I think they are up to like 19 second-round picks over the next 7 years.
And we saw how valuable second-round picks were
Yeah,
in this trade
exactly.
deadline. So,
I mean, Jay Crowder went for 5 seconds. The Thunder can make that trade 4 times.
right.
I actually did the math this past summer. The Donovan Mitchell trade, the pick requirements that went into the Donovan Mitchell trade, the Rudy Gobert trade, and the why am I forgetting the kid that went from the Spurs over to Atlanta, DeJounte Murray.
Yeah,
The DeJounte Murray trade. The Thunder
too.
have enough pick assets to make all 3 of those trades and still have leftover first rounders.
Unbelievable.
So the team building is not over yet. They will continue to push this thing forward, but their goal is to build something sustainable for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And they have the assets to do that. And that comes down to Sam Presti, and even more so to ownership for having the faith in Sam Presti and the patience to be willing to see a rebuild through. You could even argue that, the process Sixers didn't get to finish the process.
Yep.
The process got cut short early. The Thunder aren't going to do that. They're going to take their time. And, this year their over-under was 23.5. They're at 28 at the All-Star break. Next season, their over-under is going to be like 40, and it's just going to continue to climb from there.
Yep.
I think you are looking at the early stages of a team that is going to have home court in the playoffs.
Yep, very soon.
For the foreseeable future.
Yep, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying, man. I really feel like just if you consider yourself a basketball fan, you really should be focusing on what the Thunder are doing. And let's be real, man. You kind of referenced it. These players know what's going on, man. I talked about this recently, like in a live show and everything. Like, players know what is going on in other organizations, maybe on the exception of the Houston Rockets, because they're just terrible and all that. But again, even before the Suns got good, Kevin Durant talked about it. He talked about one of my all-time favorite Suns teams. He referenced the 2013-14 and I think the 14-15 Phoenix Suns. And people forget that 13-14 team won 48 games. And then the season after that was like 45. We got like injured and everything went crazy after that. We were terrible after that. But I couldn't believe it. Players know what's going on in OKC right now, and they should be excited. You never know what's going to happen, man. You talked about the draft assets and everything. Maybe somebody is looking at that team saying, hey, I want to go play with an SGA and a Chet Holmgren and the J-Dubs and all that and Josh Giddey. I mean, you never know. And you guys are stockpiled with assets, maybe to a fault. We're going to have to see. But again, the second round picks thing, unload some of those, and then maybe your draft picks you'll figure out later. We're going to have to see what happens, man. This has been an excellent show. I don't want to take too much of your time. We've already gone like 15 minutes over, or 13 minutes over. Just real quick, man, any questions for me or any other NBA topics you want to discuss just real quick before we get out of here?
I'd love to get so it's a Suns show, and I feel guilty that I've talked a lot of Thunder.
No, that's why you're here, man. We want to know.
So we know who 4 of the Suns starters are going to be. You mentioned that kind of 5th one rotates. Do you think it will continue to rotate for the rest of the year? Or is somebody going to, I've heard people say, like, put Torrey Craig at 3, KD at 4, DeAndre Ayton at 5, and go. Is that what you expect? Is it going to be a revolving door based on matchups? You kind of talked about that as well. How do you see that finishing?
Can I just answer your question? Yes. It's so strange, man. Monty Williams is also a guy, maybe to a fault, sort of like he was with Dario. He sometimes trusts his guys a little too much. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. And don't forget, Campaign's been injured. He might come back Friday. Landry Shamit's been out forever. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is sometimes he rewards players with how hard they work in practice. But I think you said it perfectly. That last spot, whatever it is, the 4, the 5, or the 4, I should say, really, is probably a revolving door, especially now that we lost Dario and all that, because he was starting Dario a lot. Torrey Craig's been in and out of the rotation. Torrey Craig seems like he plays better when he's starting. I don't know if a confidence drop has happened ever since, the KD trade and all that. I don't know. I think it is going to be a revolving door. But I will say this. I mean, obviously, the playoffs start. You want to go with experience. That's where Torrey Craig could probably be there. And who knows, man? Maybe if Darius Bazley puts in the work in practice, maybe we see him a little bit. TJ Warren, you can't forget him. It's like these are a lot of good problems to have. You know what I
for
mean?
Sure.
But I really feel like that's a revolving door, as you said. And Monty's just going to say, hey, we're playing, let's say the Sixers this night, or we're playing the Thunder this night. Let's bring in Torrey Craig or whoever. I don't know, man.
Interesting. Well, I got to say, from a Thunder perspective and a team pushing for the play-in, I wish we would have played the Suns a little bit before the trade deadline when all the injuries were on.
You probably would have beat us too.
Because looking at that schedule now, I think that's just 4 scheduled losses. There's just way too much firepower there. And as Thunder fans have a very complicated relationship with Kevin Durant, as you can imagine, but universally, Chris Paul is loved in Oklahoma City. Absolutely loved. Yep. If I had to pick one player outside of the Thunder to win a title, it would probably be Chris Paul. I don't know if you saw this at All-Star Weekend, but at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's media availability, they asked him who he would like to see win a title or who he would like to play with, something like that. Yep. And he mentioned his cousin and Chris Paul. The impact that Chris had on Shai in that one season is impossible to understate. Chris turned Shai into a leader, right? Yeah. And I believe he has done the same thing with Book, and that will just continue on throughout Booker's career. Even less of a basketball player, just as a man. You guys having Chris Paul and Monty Williams, you just have 2 of the best human beings in the league. Yep. And I think having those types of players in your team, in your culture, just makes it that much stronger. And so it's hard to root against those guys. It really is.
Well done, Jacob. Well done, man. This has been an excellent show. I think that we all got a lot more than we wanted, and that was really good. And I appreciate your insight and opinions. You have been extremely helpful on today's show, man. We've obviously gone over a little bit longer than the runtime. I don't want to take up too much of your day. So again, man, even though everything's already in the description box, let people know who you are, where they can find you. And again, you guys, if you're watching later, go follow Jacob and the Uncontested Podcast. Everything will be in the description. So any final thoughts, man?
Awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah. So you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Jacob Kniffen. That last name is Kniffen. My podcast at @the_uncontested on Twitter. We're on YouTube as well. We drop Thunder post games, so I'm not sure how many Suns fans will be interested in that. Unless maybe Friday night, you might want to listen to Friday night's post game.
That's what I was gonna say. We play you guys 4 times for the rest
of
the season.
You got maybe 4 opportunities.
Maybe Suns fans want a non-Suns podcast perspective, because there's a lot of Suns podcasts out there. Let me tell you.
Definitely. Hey, there's just a lot of podcasts out there. Period.
Exactly.
So, but I really appreciate you bringing me on. I always love to come on here and talk about other teams and kind of get perspective. So. Really appreciate that. Glad I could help out with some of the Darius Baisley stuff.
Yeah,
and
definitely helpful, man.
I think you have a lot of shows coming up all the way into June. So get ready for it.
Fingers crossed.
It's exciting. It's really exciting.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you again so much for being here. Once again, you guys, go give them a follow. Follow Jacob. And go check out that podcast on Friday, because, again, it would be good to get a non-Suns fan perspective on it, especially if KD plays. Even if not, go check them out, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I might actually be doing a second live show later tonight. I had some things pre-scheduled. As you know, we were talking about this for a while. So stay tuned, you guys. Lots more content on the way. Jacob, once again, you were an excellent guest, and I really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for being here. You guys, make sure to destroy that like button. Make sure to subscribe. All the links are down below in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Go Suns.